The little button that looks like a cartoon exclamation. I don't know what it is. So let me share the agenda. Hide. Okay. Let me know when you guys can see the agenda here. Okay, let me know when you can see it.
It is visible. Perfect.
All right, well, on meetings such as these that are online, it always takes a little bit longer to get started. So wanted to welcome everybody. And again, if you have not provided Chris with just your first and last name and the street that you live on, please do so. That would be great in the chat. I want to welcome Donovan Smith, who is going to be talking about Patton Square Park and potentially changing the name of that. And then we're going to go into the bylaws amendments, and we'll discuss that for about 45 minutes. And then board reports, and then we will have time for public comments, and then we will adjourn at 8 o'clock. All right, so Donovan, are you able to, are you able to talk? We can't hear you.
There we go. So I was confused with the boxes and everything. So.
Okay, yep, we can hear you. Perfect. Okay. Do you have anything to share, or do you want me to share anything?
No, I was gonna create a little presentation for you all, but things got a little bit hectic today. But you all will just be forced to look at my face. I hope that is okay. I did put on lotion, and the light is next to me. So, but anyways, my name is Donovan Smith. I've created a platform called Gentrification Is Weird, which is dedicated to researching, elevating, and creating Black stories in place in Oregon. So I sit on the committee for the Interstate Firehouse Cultural Center, which I'm sure everybody here is familiar with. It's a Black arts facility that has been in the community and has been dormant for some time. And now there is work that's been commissioned through Commissioner Fritz to see that facility brought back online. And so for me, that's really how this whole thing comes together, because sitting on that committee, as we were trying to revision what is this building going to be as we bring it back, one of the opportunities that I saw was the park. I was curious about the park. And what I found is that Patton Square Park is named after a colonizer. So Patton Square Park was named for Matthew Patton, who came here during the mid-1800s and took advantage of the Land Donation Act. Is anybody not familiar with the Land Donation Act? Okay, so essentially, just because I know different people have different capabilities with technology or knowledge, the Land Donation Act is key in the formation of Oregon, right? Like, this is at the same time as Native Americans are being killed off and Oregon is being formed by what we call settlers. You know, the state constitution was banning Black folks and then encouraging white people to come here and give them swaths of land. So Matthew Patton was one of those people, and that's what that park is named after. And he was able to, you know, really take advantage of that. He flipped a lot of things into businesses, and really that family prospered. There are other things throughout the city that are named after the Patton family. If you type in Matthew Patton Land Donation Act, you will find quite a few things regarding not only him, but that family. There's a Patton Road as well here. And many of the things that are adjacent to, you know, the IFCC and Patton Square Park have Patton in them just kind of de facto because of the name of that park. So with that being said, the opportunity that I was seeing was that this park should be named after somebody who's been a part of Black arts excellence here in the city, not after somebody that is a colonizer. I think even the fact that this building is here and it's against that park is a great example of how colonization works, because nobody who had traditionally lived in North and Northeast Portland would have named that park for that after that person. And so it's just something to think about. And so as I was thinking who deserves this honor, there was a Rolodex of people, right? Like that came up. But the year that we got commissioned to be on the IFCC committee, somebody named Star Child had passed. Star Child passed at age 42. He was one of the marquee people in shaping Portland hip hop and elevating it. He's a Portland native, graduate of Wilson High School, and literally from the 90s on had, he started as a rapper and moved on to being like a promoter and a facilitator. And if any of y'all are fans of hip hop, you might remember 95.5 before it was what it's called today. But he was a DJ there on 95.5. But yeah, he had passed that same year, and it was a really freaky thing. So he went into the hospital, and a couple days later he was gone. Like, he barely was coherent, and then he was gone. And it was from a brain cancer that he had. But when he passed, it put a lot of shockwaves into the city, into the community, even nationally. Star Child really was nationally known, especially for people in the hip hop community. If y'all are familiar with Hot 97, it's one of, if not the premier hip hop radio brand in the country. Their main host took time out of his show to honor Star Child, just for context. So this is the type of person that we're talking about. He's also been a mentor. He's to young Black men, and then again within the hip hop community, he's been a key mentor to people just trying to get their art out. And one of the other things that he had done was create Portland Hip Hop Day. So Portland Hip Hop Day, he co-created with DJ OG1. DJ OG1 is the Portland Trailblazers DJ and has been for close to 10 years. So they both came together about 6 years ago at a time when Portland hip hop, or hip hop in Portland, was being over policed. Shows were being shut down. Mid-show, police would just show up, or they would talk to a venue hours before the show and have them cut the capacity in half. Or if you look at the Blue Monk incident, this was really the precipice of so many of the things when they showed up to a show that was three of the biggest artists in the city. And they showed up with lights on in the middle of the street as if somebody had been shot, but nothing had happened. They showed up with the fire marshal, and one of the artists just decided to not perform and shut the show down because he, as a Latino and white man, said, "I will not perform in this city as long as hip hop is being targeted in this city, and Black music rather is being targeted in this city." And so that was really a breaking point. And so there were a lot of things that were happening that year. DJ OG1 and Star Child approached the then mayor, Charlie Hales, to sanction a hip hop day where hip hop would be elevated and people would get a chance to perform in front of City Hall to expose the greater city to what hip hop is as a culture. I don't believe it was the first year, but the second year, even Damian Lillard came through and performed. And it's become a staple in the city, so much so that it even expanded last year into a whole week. And it had events all throughout the city that explored all the different pillars of hip hop beyond the music. They had b-boys and DJ sets and all kinds of great events. Even the organization I was working for at the time, we were planning an event to bring awareness to the Superfund cleanup that I was leading called Illamit. And, we got sanctioned as a PDX Hip Hop Day. Our PDX Hip Hop Week event. So all that to say, that is part of Star Child's legacy. And so I've talked to all the commissioners either directly or had a conversation with their representatives as part of this. The official, there's a process that you engage in to officially change the name. And it's pretty like, once it goes, it goes. And I am trying to make sure that I have conversations with different folks as before that paperwork is signed. But I wanted to come to you all and see if you had questions, and also see if I could gather you all support in making this name change. Again, this is something that's been happening quietly for the last couple of years, but now seems even more like a time as we're beginning to reckon with who's who and what's what, and Black lives. This seems like a time to really elevate an effort like this. So yeah, that's what I have for you all for the moment. I would love to hear any questions or thoughts.
All right, thanks, Donovan. Does anybody have any questions for Donovan? Everybody's on mute. Stacy, are you trying to talk?
This is Marcy. I came in a little late. Sorry, Stacy. Go ahead. I wrote down Star Child. Was that the name you were talking about, Donovan?
It is Star Child, LE. So I just dropped it in the chat there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I'll also send you all kind of like a one-sheeter that has more of what I've been talking about here. Again, I apologize for not having a full presentation for you all. Everything that's been done at this point really has been conversations and not so much a presentation. So, yeah.
Sure, that would be great.
Somebody asked in the chat, is that a performance name? It is his performance name. His name is Idris O'Farrell as his official name. And, this is kind of, I'm going to drop the obituary for Star Child as well here in the chat for you all. It does seem to be that Star Child Park is what community is responding to rather than Idris O'Farrell Park. And I guess one of the things I didn't name in this is I really do believe that this is something to kind of bridge generations. Like this is not an official charge of the IFCC Community Advisory Committee that I'm on at all, but I see this as being a bridge for new generations, especially hip hop as a entity or as a culture that exists in the city that literally has no place, no dedicated venues to it. They've been over-policed out and traditionally just looked at with a side eye. I think this is a way to claim place and usher people into the IFCC as it comes back online.
So there's another chat, but first I want to let Stacy talk.
I kind of had the same question that Matt is asking in chat right now.
Okay, so the question is, can you speak a bit about the process and or protocol on how someone or a group goes about proposing a name change to a city park?
Yeah, so officially, essentially what it is there's some paperwork that you sign saying I want to change a park name. The commissioner will form an ad hoc committee of representatives, and a recommendation will be made, and then ultimately the commissioner in charge of parks will then decide yay or nay. So now that person would be Dan Ryan. So when started this process, it was Commissioner Fritz, and in fact, I first gave this presentation, or gave a pitch rather, not so much a presentation, to my committee to take this on as a charge, but it was outside of really what our duties were, so we didn't pick it up. And I think my committee also was curious to know more. But Fritz was there when I made this pitch, and she was the commissioner at that time. And she came up gushing, literally gushing to me about the idea of honoring Star Child because she was familiar with his work. And so Ted Wheeler had reassigned her shortly thereafter. But yeah, Dan Ryan would be the person now.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
Can you explain what you mean by process of involvement? Carol?
Oh yeah, has there been a process of involvement in the choice of name?
Yeah, I was just wondering if, because I can think of a couple of other very great names from the area, but I'm, not bringing them forward right now. I certainly would if, it was an open process, but I'm assuming that it has been rather than just one person coming up with the name. Has there been a process of involvement in choosing this name? And a person that came straight to my mind was Esperanza Spalding, but that's, so if someone local she is local, but she is also much more than local at this point.
Absolutely. So the initial idea came from me. Ideas have to come from people. So it came from me. But at the time, there was definitely a Rolodex of people, Esperanza being one of them, that, as I was sitting on this committee for the IFCC, that I was really thinking about who could this best be honored. And like I said, Star Child had just passed at the time that this had came to my radar. And so just, again, watching communities grievance over Star Child, and as somebody who grew up in this city, a fourth-generational Portlander who had also taken in Star Child's work, I felt he was somebody worth honoring. And as part of the city's process as well, you're supposed to rename parks after somebody who's been dead for at least 3 years, unless there's been a special exception made. So in terms of general process is what I'm doing with you all right now. I have put it out to Star Child's family, is who I first reached out to before anything, and got the okay from them. I have spoken with friends and family of Star Child, and I've spoken with different folks within the community. And like I said, I've spoken with the commissioners and everything. But yes, I think ultimately Star Child is the person who this effort is aiming to honor. And again, this is about honoring him, and it's also about honoring hip hop as a entity, as a culture, and as a Black arts culture that in this city has literally no place for it to thrive. And so, even some of the folks that have been engaged in this process have even considered starting to do shows, some of the shows that they're doing there, and calling it Star Child Park as they're, promoting it in their flyers and things of that nature.
All right, well, thank you. I appreciate your time. And you're going to send us some information. Will you also send us, if people want to follow up with any additional questions, I have your contact information. I don't know if you want me to send that out or share that, or if
Yeah.
there's a better way to contact you.
Yeah, the best email for me would be gentrificationisweird@gmail.com. So I just sent that incorrectly. I'm dropping that in the chat right now. But yes,
Perfect.
thank you for you all's time. I know I went a little bit over, but yes, anybody that has questions, please send me them. I will send you all information, and I would love Overlook Neighborhood Association's support as this thing moves forward. So I know this may require more dialogue, and I'm ready to not just have dialogue with me, but other folks that are working alongside this effort.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, perfect. Okay, we got your email. All right, well, thank you so much. Appreciate your time and coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, yep, we are a little bit behind. Let me figure out how to share the agenda again. Well, let me just talk about the agenda. Let's see. Oh, I have to share anyway. Sure. Okay. Bylaws. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the bylaws. Let me pull those up. All right. Can everybody see the bylaws? Can anybody see the bylaws?
Bylaws are visible.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. So what I want to do is to briefly go through the changes. If anybody wants to propose a motion to pass them, we can do that. We will then have a discussion. Well, if we get a second. No? Donovan's coming back. If we have a second, we will discuss them, open them up for discussion, and then we can vote as we go. Okay, so the reason that these changes were made were in order to meet best practices for online meetings, especially with the election coming up, and the other piece is to set us up so that in the future we can continue to have online meetings so that people are not required to come into meetings, which I hope will result in better participation. The tricky piece was when we had that last vote was trying to track everything online. It's not easy. And it would have taken an hour to go through at least all of the votes of everybody online. So the majority of these changes are just being made so that we can follow best practices for online meetings. Okay, so let me go through these here. So active member, so this one was changed to have people have attended at least one general, special, or board meeting in the past 6 months. And we added online or in person so that, again, you don't have to attend. And what I did was I went through quite a few bylaws to see what other neighborhood associations were doing. And they're kind of all over the board. Most of them are a lot stricter than this, which was interesting, or a lot of them were a lot stricter than this. So St. John's, for example, all members had to attend at least one of the last 2 meetings. Forest Park, you could only be a member if you filed a written request to be a member. Centennial, one of the last 3 general meetings, plus 1 more meeting in the last 6 months. 3 meetings in the past 12 months was Hayden Island. Cathedral Park, 3 meetings in the past 12 months, plus provided a contact address. So a lot of neighborhoods are requiring this. And again, especially now that it's really hard, it's much harder to track people than having them come in and sign up on a sheet and put their name and their address and their signature. So this was trying to help with that. In addition, it was also trying to help get more people involved. And then thirdly, it was trying to make sure that we could get people online or in person and continue with that. This piece here was just so that we can track it for 6 months. Obviously, everybody is an active member for the next 6 months until March 1st, 2021. Regarding the voting, you can vote while attending meetings, in the meeting, or at a designated voting site. So the reason that we put this one in is for instance, the next election, for 2 reasons. One, for the next election where there are probably a lot of people who do not want to go to a general meeting in person. And so we wanted to have something in the bylaws that would allow people to vote at a different site. So the plan is to allow people to vote at the general meeting and then to have an off-site place where people can come and vote for probably 2 days after the meeting, a day or 2 after the meeting. Again, hopefully this will get more people involved so that they do not have to attend an in-person meeting. Because at this point, all you can do, you have to be at the special general meeting to vote. So this allows more people to vote. Oh, this one, we just said, shall be made 3 days or more in advance by publication in print or by electronic communication. This was to all active members. I'm not sure why it would have to be all active members. It should just be to everyone. So we removed that piece. Special general meetings of the membership. So this one, the board changed this one to say may be called by the chair or a vote of the majority of the board as deemed necessary and shall not be called unless a matter must be decided prior to the next regular general meeting. And the reason for changing this one was, again, we had a special meeting. We had told this group of people who wanted to have an agenda item that we were happy to put it on the next agenda, and that didn't happen. And so we ended up having a special meeting 3 days before the general meeting. And I just think it would have been easier and better for everybody if we would have had it at that general meeting, because what it did was it made people have to go to 3 meetings in like a week. So, and attendance ended up suffering for the other meetings because of that. These were changed to active members as per the definition above. This, we missed Robert's Rules of Order. We just said must strictly adhere to Roberts for meeting procedures. The other change that we made was the composition of the board, and the board discussed this at 2 board meetings. And we talked about, do we want to change the board membership from 15 to 12? Or well, actually we said 11, I think we started out at. And there was a proposal to do 12 so that we would have an even number. And the reason that we wanted it to be an even number is because we also have a proposal to change the board duration or the membership duration for 2 years instead of 1 year, so that there is some carryover in information from year to year, and it's best practice. I also looked up a bunch of other neighborhood associations, and a lot of them are 2 years instead of 1 year. I think 1 year there's just a lot of movement, and 1 year also I think a lot of people just sign up if there's something that one thing that they're interested in, and then what has happened in the last 3 years is that people have just dropped off the board at pretty significant rates because they're just interested in one topic, which is great. But, you know, as the board dealing with a whole bunch of different things, it's nice to have people stay longer and to participate in other topics besides just one. So back to the 12 board members, we changed this to 15 again. The board is a little bit unwieldy with 15. It's just hard to get through all the board reports. At this point, I think we're down to 12 members, 11 or 12, because people have ended up dropping off, and it's just easier to manage. So that was a topic of discussion. This one is just at the 2020 election, the top 6 vote getters shall serve 2-year terms. And then the remaining elected board members will serve 1-year term. So that's if we end up changing this to 2 years. In the first year, we wanted to do opposite, we want them to be opposite years. So we're gonna have the bottom 6 vote getters serve 1 year, the top 2 years, so that we can set it on a rotating pattern. The role of the secretary, we changed Office of Neighborhood Involvement, whose name has changed to Community and Civic Life Involvement. And then because we are now doing meeting recordings, we added this, that he or she shall post meeting recordings and make them accessible from the OKNA website. These are active. The other thing that we ended up doing, because a few months ago, we had some issues with one of our boards meeting and making decisions and not inviting other members of the community. And so we just wanted to make sure that if there are committee meetings being held, that the committee chair puts out a meeting notification at least 3 days in advance. And you can put it on Nextdoor, you can put it on Facebook, probably in all of those, the weekend update, so that people can participate if they want to in a certain subject. So they don't have to attend the full board meeting if they don't want to, or the full general meeting if they're just interested in a topic. And then the election. So the election shall be made by nomination at least 10 days. And again, we changed this one because of, again, COVID and voting online. So the election shall be by nomination at least 10 days prior to the annual general meeting by written notification to the chairperson. Members may nominate themselves. And the nominees will be listed on the Overlook Neighborhood Association website 7 days before the election. What this does is it allows people to say they're going to run. We can post that information on a website. People can then vote without having to attend an Overlook Neighborhood Association meeting, attend that particular neighborhood association meeting. So they can see who is running. They can decide who they want to vote for. And at the meeting or 2 days after, they can vote and they can go in and vote. So this just allows them to understand who is participating and who is running. And I think that might be it. I don't think anything else. All right, I think that's it. Okay. So that was very brief. Hopefully, I know Chris posted these quite a while before. So hopefully everybody was able to look through them. Does anybody have, or would anybody like to make a motion to approve the bylaws changes?
Oh, Alex, can I interrupt you 1 second?
Yes, you may.
I wanted to get, we have a few new people on the call. I wanted to get them.
Yeah. Sorry.
Before we do any action.
Yep.
So the person who's called in on a phone, number ending 257.
I think that's Marcy.
That's Marcy.
Sorry, okay.
Mhm.
Oh,
Are you seeing people?
no, the list disappeared, shit.
Donovan disappeared, and then we have another Prajan. I think if I pronounced your name improperly, I apologize.
Kristen?
I'm sorry, there was a Kristen and a Pranaj, or I lost my list of attendees, sorry.
Prajan, Susan, Stacy,
Rajna.
Michelle, Matt, Kristen, Julie, Jim R., Cynthia, Carol Cushman, Bo, I'm going to butcher your last name, Bohannon, Brad, Chris, Alexander, and me.
Yeah, we have everybody except for Kristen. So Kristen, we're like trying to keep records of attendees. So if you could just say what your last name is and the street that you live on.
Disappeared. There she is.
Hi, my last name is Walker, and I'm on Blandina Street.
Perfect, thank you.
Oh, you're right by me.
Chris, did you get that?
Yes, Kristen Walker on Blandina Street, and then Stacy.
No, Stacy already got.
Stacy Nessman.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Susan. I got Susan Hayden.
I
Okay,
think you got everybody.
that's everybody. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Who's Jim R?
Jim
Jim Reynolds.
Jim Reynolds.
Got it. But we just lost the other guy.
I can let him back in, her, whatever.
I don't know.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
I move that we accept the changes to the bylaws as noted on the screen. This is Brad.
Okay, thanks, Brad.
Second. Marcy seconds.
All right, thanks, Marcy. Okay, now I will open it up to discussion. I think everybody should be able to unmute themselves. I'm going to give everybody like a minute to speak so that we can get through everybody, so that everybody has a chance to participate. And then if everybody has had a chance to participate, we can look at having people speak again. So I'm having a really hard time here finding chat. Where the heck did it go?
So,
I see it flashing in front of my face. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay.
go ahead. You see
Anybody?
that?
Okay, I see one from Stacy. Stacy, did you want to unmute or do you want me to?
Okay, I'm unmuted. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to capitalize. I wasn't yelling.
No
I'm
worries.
wondering what the reasoning is behind wanting to extend the positions for 2 years as opposed to keeping them at 1.
Yeah, there were a couple of things. So, ouch. That was my knee. So one of the reasons was so that there is some institutional knowledge from year to year. So we've always had people running again, but what could happen is that, people decide not to run and then you get a new board and there's no institutional knowledge from the previous year. So it's kind of like starting over. So that was one. Secondly, a lot of the other neighborhood associations do it, and I think that that's why. I think we're one of the few that don't. And then I think the last reason is because if it's a year, what we've found is that people will sign up for just one topic. I think I kind of talked about this a little bit, that they're interested in getting resolved. And then if it gets resolved, then they drop off instead of having people, if you're committed to 2 years, then you might have more interest in more different topics. So that was our thought process for selecting 2 years.
Yeah, I noticed that there are typically only about 5 board members that I've noticed since I started coming to attending by Zoom in the last, I guess since March. What are the other positions that people were elected to that they're now not fulfilling?
So it's not that people are just elected to the board. So are you talking about committees?
Well, not so. There are supposed to be 15 board positions right now.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
I can give you an example of what was it 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, when Adidas had started construction. There were a lot of people at Adidas who signed up to be, I think like 6 or 7 maybe, that were on the board. And then a few months later or 6 months later, a lot of them dropped off, like the majority of them dropped off. And so it's just because they were just interested in that topic. Now, that's not to say that people won't drop off, but what we have to, okay, thanks, Jim. what I think this will do is have people stay longer. And if not, then we'll have an election and or not an election, but we'll have the board decide on a replacement. So what happens now is that somebody drops off and we're like, oh, well, the election's in 6 months, so let's not replace that person.
What are those positions though, beyond the chair, the vice chair, secretary, and treasurer? What are those other positions that,
So there are no positions, people just get voted onto the board. There are then committees that people can sign up for if they want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I got it.
Yeah, so we still have all the committee, we still have the committees going except for I think one, or two. Okay, I saw somebody had a hand up. Is it Carol?
Yeah, that was me, and I just was wanting to, I guess, respond to Stacy's question. I think it is best practice to have staggered terms for any kind of a board, and that more than a one-year term is a sign of really committing to something, rather than, and many people have done multiple one-year terms, but I think the two-year term is a note of commitment. And I think that it is really best practice to have staggered terms.
Yeah, I agree after hearing that explanation.
Cool, thanks, Carol. I think, Bo, you have a question?
Yes, I do. So I had a couple of things of reading over this and one is several places about giving 3 days notice to meetings and things like that. I don't feel like 3 days notice is a long enough time to actually engage a wider audience than just the people who purposely signed up for your email list or visits your website on an active basis. For example, today's meeting was even posted as an event on Facebook until this afternoon. To try, you want people to be active, you should let them know more in advance that something is going on than posting on one channel, but just letting all the other channels drop. Like I said today, Facebook didn't have any activity until today prior to August 9th. And then this afternoon around noon, you posted the meeting.
Sure.
So
I mean,
if you're going to give notice, the notice should.
The meetings are, the first and third Thursday or Tuesday of every month. But yes, I agree. So do you have I know you said somewhere in here. Do you?
I think it was article. No, that's the wrong notes. Article 3. No. I don't know what that note was about. It was somewhere. I mean, I would just like to see, like the board actually just, hey, the day we send our email, post it to our website, create it on Facebook, or maybe pre-create those events. I mean, this is something, I guess, who would be on the digital chair or committee, but I mean, people don't get all their news source from one place anymore. So I think as part of a neighborhood association, it has to have this proactive nature that if we want younger and more diverse people on the board, we need to use those different mediums like Instagram and Facebook better and in more of a timely fashion and post often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. We are not, we're trying to get things out, and sometimes it's hard when we have other things going on. But we do have meetings every Tuesday, every first and third Tuesday of the month. So, but noted. Do you have a proposed change that you would like to make, or is that just a notification to the board for us to get better at, for the digital chair to get better at posting stuff, and for me to get better at posting stuff?
I mean, I think if anything, there's several places like at the end of the bylaws where like any amendments that are to be done, there's a 7-day notice that has to take place, the way I understand at the end of the bylaws, if any changes were going to be made to the bylaws. I'm like, you know, if we could just post a reminder earlier that week in all applications or I'm not really I mean, I think if things were more synced up, like a week window would be enough time for people to really adjust things, or, you know, add, like you said, our meetings are these days in the bios of Facebook and things like that, or pre-create those events in advance. The one thing I did want to propose a change to is in the board, the secretary treasurer positions. I don't feel like, I feel like the way, scroll down just a little bit more, where it actually defines treasurer and secretary. I'd like to see changes made to remove the word he and she and use they and them pronouns. So it's a little bit more all-encompassing of everyone who lives throughout the Overlook community. I would like to see things a little bit more open or I lost the word now.
Gender inclusive, does that work?
Inclusive. Yep.
I'm going through all my notes.
No problem.
Yeah, so besides notice and making those gender inclusive changes.
Okay.
Those were the only
so for this, do you want to actually change it in here? And so to change it, if you want to make a motion.
Oh.
Yeah, an additional motion on the motion. We have to go through the motions.
Can I make a motion to change he and she to they and them pronouns?
And I'm assuming his and her to.
Oh,
Yep.
well, before you make your motion, can I make a counter suggestion? Which is to take pronouns out entirely. Can we just use the secretary there?
Yeah, I think that would be fine too.
Okay, so here, it's going to be a little bit weird. So vice chairperson shall assist the chairperson. Wait, vice chairperson shall function as a chairperson in chairperson's absence. Okay, I cannot change it on here, but I'm going to highlight it so that I will go back and take notes here. Okay, so change that to chairperson.
And that would be secretary, so on and so forth.
Yep. How did I highlight it? Here we go.
I'll second that.
Here's another one. You know what? I'm going to search. I'm going to do a search after this, and I will try to, I think it's only here, right? Bo, did you find it anywhere else?
That's the only place I think I saw it.
Yeah, I think you're right, as I recall. Okay, I think I got all of them.
In the bylaw.
Okay, so I'm going to change this to chairperson, this to secretary, and this to treasurer. Okay, so Bo made a motion, Brad seconded. Any discussion on this change? Okay, I'm gonna start with any opposition. Even if there's any opposition, we can do a vote. Any opposition to this change? Okay, then the motion passes. Secondary motion passes. Okay, now we are back to the first initial motion.
So this is Brad. I want to touch bases with what Bo was talking about. The board talked about this, you know, do we have these umpteen channels going on to try to let everybody know what's going on or not, and debated and decided to go with Nextdoor as our primary. And I think that one was posted ahead of time, but I don't know that for sure. But we decided not to on Facebook. So, but I do like your calendar suggestion of we have that posted somewhere. Unfortunately, the city's calendar postings have completely, they don't work right now. And that worked well before, but it doesn't work right now.
I think my only thing with posting on Nextdoor and deciding on only using one means it's kind of like, hey, we're just going to send an envelope to everyone's house with the date. Like, not using those other channels, I think you greatly exclude people that aren't active on Nextdoor only. Like that might be a little bit more of the property owners, but probably not necessarily all the renters that are in the Overlook community who are more involved on those other more hip platforms. I'm not saying that Overlook should have a Snapchat or a TikTok account, but just creating those events ahead of time on Facebook or just posting a story reminder on Instagram, so it can attract a broader age group of people wanting to be participating who are not on Nextdoor.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. We'll definitely reassess that. Well, I think one of the reasons is because we weren't getting any hits on Facebook. And so we decided to let it go, but we can reassess.
And I mean, I do social media and events for a living. So if the next board meeting, if you guys want some help figuring out how to make things a little bit more streamlined and connect things, I can help you with that. I have one other question because I didn't see it in the bylaws. I know a lot of the changes were made because we're Zoom meetings, and once COVID is behind us, I think you mentioned that you were going to start recording some of the in-person meetings as well and allow people to attend. Yeah. Did you come across in your research of other organizations that are doing this? I know the organization I used to run before I moved to Portland, we did a lot of recording to YouTube, but we offered an opt-out for people who didn't necessarily wanted to be posted online on YouTube. Did the board talk to anything about that?
We did. And Chris, do you remember the exact, we've posted it, but it's only accessible. So it's not just on YouTube out to the world, but Chris, you're going to have to explain it better.
It is out to the world. The issue we had was that, well, there's two issues in play. One, the way we're recording the Zoom meetings anyway, we're redacting everyone's phone numbers so that phone numbers don't appear on the recording. The issue for us is that per our bylaws and per OCCL, Office of Community and Civic Life standards, we have to abide more or less by Oregon public meeting rules. And that means we can't let people opt out. If you attend the meeting, you are participating in a public process, you are subject to being recorded. Anyone can come to one of our meetings with a camera and record everybody there. It's a public meeting just like a government body has public meetings. So yeah, if we were strictly a private organization, we could look into ways to keep people out of video, but we don't have that option.
I was more worried about phone numbers and emails that might be displayed.
Okay, yeah, the Zoom recordings, we're keeping those redacted.
Cool.
Yep, exactly.
And Chris, can you touch on the YouTube part of it? Is it that you need to go through the Overlook site to get to the YouTube videos?
No, anybody can get to it. It's not going to show. We'll show up in searches. It's not being promoted by YouTube, but if somebody searches for Overlook Neighborhood Association, they will find our channel.
Okay.
And the videos will be there.
Cool, thanks. All right. Thanks, Bo.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments?
I think Matt,
did you get your question answered? I know Chris responded. Did you have any additional? Yes, okay. Thank you. All right, perfect. Anybody else?
I have a question, and it kind of goes back to like people dropping out over time. I'm looking at what's up right now on page 7B, where it says board members at large shall prepare for and attend board and general meetings and fulfill their responsibilities. It seems like there are some positions, specifically the position that Toby was sitting on, that he seems to have abandoned. And in instances like that, is there an opportunity like throughout the year, like outside of an election period, for someone else to be elected by special election or appointed?
Yeah, it's in here. It's not by special election. The board can put another person on the board, basically. So what happened with, we had somebody who attended, what was his name? Robert? No, not Robert. Oh, I can't remember. He left after a month because he moved out of state. And so what we did was we then voted to nominate Casey onto the board. And he was a pretty easy vote because he had asked to be on the board and he just wasn't, like, he didn't get elected. But he was like the 16th person. He didn't get elected. So we voted him on. The issue that happens is that, like I said, we get closer to the end of the year. So when we get closer to September and somebody's not attending, we've asked ourselves, like, do we want to be the people who nominate somebody, or do we want to let the general public nominate people? And I think time and time again, because it's only like a few months away, right, we've said, no, we want the general public to nominate people. So that's kind of the reasoning. I think with the 2 years that we're going to, this will become a bigger issue. And what will happen is, if somebody is on a 2-year term and they leave after 6 months, they will definitely get filled. That position will definitely get filled.
Yeah, I'm specifically like interested in, I guess I'm using the wrong word. It's
A committee.
kind of troublesome to me that the community outreach person hasn't shown up to any meetings since like February or March, and everyone, I think, would like to see more attendance at the meetings. So it's kind of a shame that no one was able to like fulfill that position, since it's essentially been vacant for over 6 months. So
I think if it was a typical year, we would have been more aggressive in finding out what was going on. But being that we couldn't even figure out how to meet for a while or what we were going to do, kind of messed that up. But a typical year, we'd be, if the person was no longer available or interested in the role, we would go out and find somebody else to be on the board, I would think. On the other hand, when it's May and you've got, and you're having that discussion and you're having elections in September, do you wait? That's what we decided to do this time. It was a judgment call.
okay.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Brad.
Mm-hmm.
All right, does anybody else have anything? Any comments on the bylaws? Okay. So I'm going to have a vote. I might go through everyone. Chris, do you have that? Do you have the list of folks in the spreadsheet?
I do.
Okay, I got it. All right, I think some people left, but all right, so let's go through the vote, and the vote will be to pass the motion. The motion is to obviously pass the bylaws. We'll go through the vote because I would rather do that than have have people be quiet or have it be like by consensus. So I'll just read off people's names. You can say yes, no, you can also abstain. Chris, you're first. And Chris, will you track the votes?
You're listed above me, but I would be glad to go first.
Oh, am I on there?
Yes.
Oh, there I am. Look at that. Okay, I vote yes.
Bo Bohannon is next.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know if someone was going to call us
Sorry,
off.
I'll read them off. Sorry.
Yes.
Carol Cushman.
Aye.
Carla Romsberg.
Yes.
Cynthia Slaski,
Yes.
Brad Halverson,
Yes.
Susan Hayden,
She's
Susan
not on
Hayden,
anymore. No, she's not on anymore.
okay. Julia Metz,
Yes.
Matt Scoggin,
Yes.
Stacy Newsel,
Yes.
Michelle Thompson, Michelle? Okay. Jim Reynolds?
Jim dropped off, I'm pretty sure.
All right, Donovan's a guest. Marcy McFarland?
Yes.
Kristen Walker?
Yes.
Maddie Davis?
I don't see, no.
Did we miss anyone on the call?
I saw just one came up in the chat
Oh, there it does. Let's see.
from Prajna, who I'm sorry, I don't know who that is.
Prajna was,
Rajna, can you enter your,
he did earlier. Sorry, that's Maddie Davis.
oh, that's Maddie Davis.
Okay, she was voting yes.
Oh, gotcha.
So
We
that's yes.
can't see, though I guess it doesn't really matter because there were no votes.
And not hearing from anyone else, the bylaws amendments pass.
Great. Thanks, you guys.
This could take all night. Oh.
But it won't because we're done. All right, back to, oops.
And Alex,
Back
make sure to make the changes that in the amendment that Bo proposed.
Yes, I will for sure. 100%. Okay. All right. We are 5 minutes behind, but we're doing okay. So board reports. Do any of the board members have any updates? I'm just going to let you speak if you have something. I'm not going to call on people.
Yeah, this is Brad. First thing, transportation, just remember I-5, they're getting ready to do the bridge. So they'll be doing more and more closures as they get close to it. But for the September 12th through the 20th is the projected dates. And the steel bridge is progressing nicely and the top deck should be reopened on time on the 30th. So there's those two things. And then the other thing is I do have the fiscal report for last fiscal year. And it shows that we started the year at just over almost $25,150, and now we're at $27,080. And if anybody wants to see that, we can make that happen, or I guess post it.
Great.
And
Thank
that's
you.
all I have.
And the dates of the I-5 closure are 12th through 20th?
12th through the 20th.
Okay. Cool, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, just a quick land use update. So last week on the 12th, City Council voted and adopted the residential infill project. Implementation of that, I think, will be sometime in 2021 as they work to finalize all the formal language and legal processes, but City Council has adopted that. And also the city, kind of as a follow-up to residential infill, is launching an anti-displacement task force, which will be housed in the Planning Bureau. And so I believe applications for that will be opening sometime this week. And so you can get more information about that if you just search on the city's website or BPS for the anti-displacement task force. No, I at least have not gotten any email notices or anything like that related to developments. I don't know if anything's coming in the mail recently, but doesn't seem to be anything new or big on that front.
I need to go up there this week, so thanks for reminding me. I have not
No problem.
in a little while, so let me do
Yeah,
that.
technically now they should be emailing and not just mailing, and so
Oh, okay,
we
perfect.
should be good. But the Airbnb ones and things like that will come through the mail.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great, thank you. Anything else? Lots of stuff going on.
I was able to get a hold of somebody down at Hazelnut Grove, and I actually talked to a woman named April from the city. They are starting the construction bids for the move of Hazelnut Grove. She stated that they were, it's a state of emergency, that they were going to move pretty quickly. She stated they thought they would be moving in October. When I actually talked to the other guy from Hazelnut Grove, he thinks it's not going to be till next September. But they are in the planning stages and the bidding stages, and probably in the next 6 months.
All right, any questions for Marcy or Julia?
No, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, definitely. All right, anybody else have any updates? Any other board members? All right, well, I'm gonna open it up to the neighborhood folks. So if anybody would like to speak, let me know. Has anything?
This is Carol Cushman. Just a comment on your voting tonight. We had a meeting with close to 100 people at it on Zoom. And if you use the raise hand function, it really works quite efficiently, and someone can scroll through your participant list and do a count fairly quickly. And even people that are on by phone, there is, I think it's *6 you can do that shows a raised hand there as well. And much faster. I mean, you didn't have a lot of people tonight to call through, but if you were calling through a list of 40, 50 people, we'd have been here a long time, and a raised hand does it quite quickly.
For sure. Yep, thanks. I was planning on doing it in chat, and then I decided, since there were a few people, that I would just do a roll call. But the raise hand would work as well. Thank you.
Yeah, the hitch with that would be we'd have to do 3 of them and make sure people don't vote twice, because abstentions, for a 2/3 majority, abstentions matter. It's 2/3 of the people that vote. So we would not want to count anyone who was abstaining or guests in the meeting. So if Donovan had stayed on the call, we wouldn't want him raising his hand on any of the votes, because he wouldn't have been eligible, as he was not an Overlook member.
Yes, it does take some bookkeeping at the end of somebody that is a co-host to do the counting and have the list and do the mark off, but much quicker than oral vote if you have very many people.
Yeah, and if we have more people, we'll do a chat vote. I think that's the easiest, and it's easiest. Then you can put in your name and then your vote. But yeah, appreciate it. Anyone else from the Overlook Neighborhood? All right, well, if nobody else has anything, then we have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Brad, second. I'll second.
Thank you.
All right, anybody opposed? Great. Meeting is adjourned. Now, oh, actually, oops, you know what? I forgot to say elections next general meeting. So if you would like to run for the board, which I hope you will, make sure that you get me your information by September 5th.
Elections on the 15th.
And elections will be on the 15th. All right, and we have a board meeting on the 1st of September if people would like to join. All right, now the meeting is officially adjourned. Thanks you guys for your participation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Thanks. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cynthia.